Greetings, good morning, I should say. I'm Cheyenne Hollis for Interesting Asia, and today, well, we're going on a road trip, but this isn't any ordinary road trip. We are going from Bangkok to Samui, but we're taking an electric vehicle to do so. Will we make it? Will our battery run out? I certainly hope not, but honestly, I don't really know. So why don't you come along, join me on this road trip, and find out what it's like to take an electric vehicle from Bangkok to Samui. The only thing left to say is let's go. We purposely chose to leave Bangkok on Sunday morning, so there was no traffic getting out of town. In fact, the first 90 or so minutes of the trip really flew by. So right now we are about an hour and a half outside of Bangkok. We've moved on to Highway 4 heading towards Cha Am and Hua Hin. So the reason we're taking this road trip, besides getting to go to the beautiful island of Koh Samui, is to see just how feasible it is to take a road trip in an electric vehicle in Thailand. Getting around the city, getting around Bangkok with an EV, well, that's easy. However, the best part of owning a car, at least for me as an American, is of course the classic road trip. It's being able to go from point A to point B, doing whatever you want to doing. So this trip is a litmus test to see how successful the EV infrastructure is in Thailand, and if it's possible to really drive anywhere in the country. We've got quite a bit longer to go. The journey is a little over 800 kilometers. We're gonna break it up into 2 days. We're stopping in Chumphon first. We're gonna spend the night there. We're gonna charge a few times, and eventually we'll find our way to the beautiful island of Koh Samui. So I believe our next stop will be coming up here shortly as we stop for coffee or lunch, or we'll see what happens, what the road finds us. So yeah, let's just continue on with our journey. Our route saw us bypass both Cha Am and Hua Hin as we carried on toward the south. After a little more than 3 hours of driving, our battery got to about 30% and we looked for a place to charge. Unfortunately, we were not the only ones looking to do so. All that can be done in these cases is to wait. I decided to test my luck scoping out the lottery ticket stand you'll find at just about every gas station along the highway in Thailand. Spoiler alert, the lotto ticket lost, but eventually we were able to charge our car. So it's time for our first charge of the day. We've gone through a little more than 60% of our total battery, so we've got about 25% left, but we're gonna go ahead and charge here. We're south of Hua Hin. We've been driving for nearly 3 hours now. One of the biggest issues with charging in Thailand, and as you can see, we're all good to go there. One of the biggest issues with charging in Thailand is that it's a very fragmented, disjointed process. You never really know what's going to happen. Like when we showed up, there was 2 cars already charging, so we had to wait a little bit. Luckily, 1 left, but that's probably one of the biggest issues in Thailand, is that you've got different charging stations, different apps, all of this stuff, so it's really hard to get a streamlined idea of what is happening. While the charge was taking place, we went ahead and got a quick bite to eat, and then, after about an hour, we were ready for the road with a close to fully charged battery. This was among the longer stretches of our journey. Thanks to the onboard navigation system, we had a good idea of where we could recharge, but didn't make any firm plans on where to stop. Mostly, we wanted to see what this stretch of our journey would bring. Some of it were the things you'd expect to find in Thailand, like trucks doing dangerous things for no reason. And some of it was unexpected, like cool little coffee shops along the side of the road. So it is time for a coffee break on our little sojourn. We are about, 170 to 200 kilometers away from Chumphon. We've been on the road for 7 hours now, and we stopped here at Ray Cafe, a lovely little spot, totally unexpected spot, by the way, on our road trip here, having a nice coffee. This is a wonderful, just totally hidden, was really surprised to find it. But yeah, we're continuing on the road, we're making great time. And so far, so good with the charging. We'll probably need to charge one more time in and around Chumphon today. But yeah, back to it, on the road again. We carried on into Chumphon province, where we wanted to charge despite the battery still being around the 50% mark. Honestly, that was mostly because I needed to go pee, and if we were stopping anyway, a quick 20-minute charge couldn't hurt. At this stay, we also went with an EV charger brand we had never used before, LX. This experience ended up highlighting all of the challenges being an EV owner brings. The charger didn't work properly at first, we ended up needing to use the other slot, that still didn't work. Eventually my wife had to call the operator, who told us we needed to push the charger handle in really hard in order for it to work. Technology, folks. All in all, it took us like an extra 15 minutes to figure out everything and start charging the vehicle. This kind of thing happens far more than it should, and is probably the biggest annoyance about owning an EV in Thailand. But we did get our battery charged and continued onwards. It turns out our homestay was actually further south of Chumphon than either me or my wife had realized. We decided to charge once more before getting off the highway, as it would mean we would only need to charge once tomorrow in Surat Thani. The charging station we stopped at on this occasion had an awesome roadie place, and I'm always down for some roadie. I went with the peanut butter chocolate, and it was freaking amazing. This stop in total lasted less than a half hour, and we got back on the road with a full-ish battery. Getting to our homestay was quite an adventure. We knew it was off the beaten path, but didn't imagine being this far out there. Roads progressively got more and more rural until we ended up on these makeshift paths that had fairly significant inclines. The good news is that our EV had more than enough power to handle this challenging terrain. We would eventually make it to the homestay with no issues. So after a day of driving, roughly about 10 hours of being on the road since we left Bangkok, we're outside of Chumphon, roughly about, I'd say 45 minutes to an hour outside at the homestay we'll be staying at tonight. On our journey so far, I'd say we charged for a little bit over 2.5 hours. We stopped 3 times just as we were getting lunch or needing to use the restroom. We decided to just charge and fill up based on our journey. So yeah, day 1 is complete. We will be finishing our trip from here outside of Chumphon to the Surat Thani pier and eventually to Samui. We're still about over 350 kilometers away from that, but so far so good. Plenty of charging, plenty of charge in the car here, so that is good. So I will see you tomorrow. So we are about to start day 2 of our journey using an EV, an electric vehicle, to go from Bangkok to Samui. We wrapped up a fantastic homestay here at Dan Dome Homestay outside of Chumphon. It was a great experience. We did a little octopus fishing. We had some wonderful seafood. It was just a highly recommended experience if you want that authentic local Thailand feel to it. But we've got bigger fish to fry, proverbially speaking, that is, with our road trip to Samui. So here we go. Let's get started. 0 skips. We charted our course for the ferry pier, and the second day of our trip got underway. Time was of the essence, however. Our ticket was booked for the 3:30 ship, and being late came with a pretty significant rescheduling fine. Leaving meant that we also needed to traverse the rocky roads that led to our homestay once again. This was another adventure in its own right, but we did make it back to the main road and resumed our journey once again. If I am being fully honest here, this is not the most exciting part of the drive. It's mostly just factories buying durian, which is apparently a thing in this part of Thailand. What I don't really understand about it is that all of these places offer farmers the same price. How does someone choose which place they're gonna go with if that's the case? But I digress, and we continue towards Surat Thani, which is our next stop. The final charge of this trip was unremarkable, which is arguably a good thing. There were no issues and everything went smoothly. After about an hour, we were on our way to the ferry terminal. The most exciting aspect of this trip for me was getting to take the ferry. I love riding on ferries. For this particular one, you buy the ticket online and it includes the vehicle, driver, and one passenger. You were supposed to be there 30 minutes before your departure, although it does seem like there's a little leeway on that. One excellent thing about the process is that everything is in English and it's really a seamless, hassle-free experience. That is kind of surprising for Thailand. After roughly 700 kilometers of driving, we find ourselves on the last leg of this journey. We are on the Sea-Tran ferry from Doi Sak Pier, which is right back that way, to the island of Koh Samui. The ferry itself takes about 90 minutes from pier to pier and costs 720 baht, or roughly $20. You will be able to take your car. The car includes one passenger, and yeah, you just drive on, head on the ferry, and we will eventually drive off in Samui. From the time we arrived at the pier in Surat Thani, or outside of Surat Thani, to the time we reached the streets of Koh Samui, I'd say it took a little more than 2 hours in total. And the ferry ride itself was far more enjoyable than any plane ride I've ever been on. All that was left for my wife and I to do was head to our hotel. But before we do that, let's take a look at how taking an EV from Bangkok to Samui compares with a gas vehicle and an airplane in terms of price. All told, we charged 4 times during our trip and it cost us 1200 baht in total. We also must factor in the ferry, which cost 720 baht, and a night in the homestay, which was 1100 baht. When you add all of that up, it costs 3020 baht for 2 people, or a little less than $100. Prior to owning the Volvo XC40 Recharge, we owned a traditional Volvo XC40, and that would have cost us roughly 3,500 baht in gas to drive from Bangkok to Samui, and that estimate may be on the low side. Now, it would have been possible to make the trip in one day with a gas vehicle, but that method is definitely more expensive when you add everything up. As for flying, well, the cheapest plane ticket from the Thai capital to the island runs about 2,000 baht per person one way, and that's if you're lucky enough to find one for that price. It can get significantly more expensive, especially during high season. Ultimately, driving an electric vehicle on a road trip in Thailand can provide big time cost savings, although it does depend on where you are going. Like all good things though, this trip must come to an end, and lucky for us, we've finally reached our final destination here in Samui. Well, we are here at the final destination of this journey, the Anantara Boput on the island of Koh Samui. We asked a question at the start of this video: can you take an EV from Bangkok to Samui? The answer to that question is definitely yes, and honestly, quite frankly, I was surprised at just how hassle-free it was. There were plenty of chargers along the ways. On the downside though, you never quite know what to expect with those various chargers. Are they going to be working? Is there going to be someone using them? It adds a little stress. There's some planning that goes involved with a trip like this. But I think on the pro side, importantly, driving an EV is obviously cheaper, and taking a little more time gives you a chance to enjoy the journey along the way. So if you have an EV and you're thinking about a road trip, you can definitely do it. Anyway, I am ready to enjoy my holiday here on the beautiful island of Koh Samui. This is Interesting Asia. I'm Cheyenne Hollis, and as always, keep it interesting.